This time we're going to the northeast, where there's a low level, and those are my words, low level insurgency going on in the northeast. The federal government has taken a multi-pronged approach to it. One of the areas in which activities have heightened is support for the victims, those who are caught in between, those whose homestead that area is. And one of those organizations that has taken the lead in this is the Presidential Committee or the Victims Support Fund. And we're very happy today to have with us Alhaji Tijani Tumsah, who is the Vice Chairman of that Presidential Committee. You're welcome to Sunrise.
Thank you very much.
There are many people who have heard of your committee, and in some cases they've seen some of what you've done. But in the Northeast, people talk about the fact that there are particular challenges in that area, and that the victims themselves are in a lot of harm's way aside from the fight that is ongoing. Can you enlighten us a little about that?
Well, okay, thank you so much for having me today. The Presidential Committee on the Victim Support Fund was established in 2014, and as the first private sector-led organization Nigeria has ever had. The intention was to rehabilitate, resettle, and help the victims of insurgency in the Northeast. This has been the main focus since the inauguration of the committee, and having been part of the Northeast, the insurgency has had colossal damages to the infrastructure, to the psyche of the people in the Northeast. The committee has so far rehabilitated quite a few infrastructures, including 136 government infrastructures, ranging from local governance structures like local government secretariats, schools. Initially, over 1,200 schools were destroyed. Now, the Victim Support Fund has been able to rehabilitate over 136 of these schools. The challenges are huge in terms of the amount of monies required to bring back to normal what was destroyed. What was destroyed was initially insignificant in terms of its relationship to Nigeria's Human Development Index. The Northeast had the least indices in terms of healthcare, education, and so on. So the estimation done by the World Bank and other institutions, including the state governments themselves, indicated a need to spend, to restore back to normal, the infrastructures destroyed, the need to spend over $6 billion. Now, it is worthy to note that the Victim Support Fund has, in its areas of existence, helped out in empowering women, relocating orphans. Over 5,000 orphans have been placed under foster care program, and empowerment for women activities and other economic activities in the area.
So we have this population of about 2.4 million people that are displaced in the Northeast as a result of the actions of Boko Haram. And your group, your establishment, is meant to try to relocate those people and get them reorganized, reestablish them into their homes, get them back into their farms, for instance, just so that they have a sustainable outlook looking ahead. But one wonders, with the resurgence of violence in the Northeast, are you able to function even at all?
Well, actually, the figures now are drastically reduced. As our military are recovering spaces, people are beginning to go back to their homes and resettle. The figure now is about 1.7 million people displaced, which is significantly lower than 2.4 million people earlier in the insurgency period. Now, the VSF has the duty to capacitate these people going back to their places of origin by providing them with livelihood support programs. We have in the past provided agricultural support such as improved seeds, animal husbandry, and so on. And this is what VSF continues to do as people go back to their places of origin. Now, whether that is sufficient is what we are trying to place before the Nigerian public, that the need to continuously support the victims of this insurgency is paramount. The Northeast is a significant size in Nigeria, and anything that happens to the Northeast actually happens to Nigeria as a whole.
I asked that because everything goes with a plan, really. I'm wondering what's the holistic plan is for you. Say for example, you have a rebuilding plan to rebuild schools, for instance, to rebuild homes for those who have lost their homes. But how about the victims in the IDPs who, say for instance, no more having their parents with them, the children? What's your plan for the children?
First of all, we want the children to recommence school. Now, the plan, we have an overriding plan to deal with the issues in the Northeast. As I said earlier, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, the state governments, all had assessments of what needed to be done. Now, we distilled all those plans and developed a strategic implementation framework, which we call the Buhari Plan for the Northeast. Now, that is the backdrop on the programmatic nature of the plan we want to intervene. But for schools, we have also commenced rehabilitating schools, furnishing schools, and equipping students to get back to school. And that has continuously been the objective of the VSF. Over 150 students have had to be kitted in terms of school bags, school shoes, and also other teaching aids for the teachers. Over the insurgency period, over 600 teachers lost their lives. So, you know, programs of trauma counseling, programs of establishing capacity for these teachers to resume work is what we are focused on at the VSF right now.
You know, the objectives of the Victim Support Fund are quite enormous, especially when you find where you find yourself, the task before you: education support, economic empowerment, facilitation of foster programming for the children, the support for overstretched hospitals. It looks as if it's something that's continually expanding, so to speak. So let's look at the numbers. The funding, for instance, how has it been in the area of funding? You started out with how much, and how much have you expended?
Well, actually, what happened at the initial inauguration was a pledge by the private sector, of over 56 billion naira. Subsequently, about 25 of that was realized, and that has been the money that the VSF has been using and utilizing for all these programs. I agree with you, the challenges are huge. Therefore, the continuous funding of such a program needs to happen.
So if you say you out of over 50 billion, you got over 25 billion, thereabout. How much have you expended already?
We've expended close to 10 billion so far in all the programs across the.
When you were starting, you mentioned the fact that it was estimated that you would require about $6 billion. Was that $6 billion over a period of time, or was it annually in order to be able to meet the targets?
It's over a period of time. Reconstruction does not happen overnight. Now, what we are ambitious about is to build back better. I give you the background again for the Northeast. It has been the lowest in terms of human development indices. It is the region that has the least access to healthcare, least access to education, and least access to infrastructure generally. So there is a need to upgrade. There is a need to rebuild back. So we thought it necessary to build back better.
And that's than what it was before it was destroyed.
Exactly.
All right, Alhaji Tijani Tumsah, the Vice Chairman of the Presidential Committee of the Victims Support Fund. Thank you so much for joining us on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much.